All right, so today's video, we're going to be extending what I did recently about styled components, and we're going to talk specifically about how to create themes. So using themes generated by styled components for your React apps. So if you're looking for the link to this, it's down in the description. The starter code for this video is in this GitHub repo. Again, the link is down in the description. The main branch has the starter code for both the last video and this video. The styled branch is the one that has the finished code for last video, and themes, this is going to be the code for this video specifically. All right, so once you have that, you've cloned that repo, and here it is. I've added just a couple of things. I've run npm install to get all of the content here, so it's installed all the React dependencies, and then I also did an npm install of styled components. So same as the last video. If you've watched that one, you've already got all this installed. So this is in the new branch, and I've gone back to the starter code that I had here. All I've done is add one file called theme.js. Inside this file, all there is one single object. Now this is my basic simple theme. I've created an object called coolTheme, and it's an object literal. It's got a few properties: colors, fonts, font sizes, font weights. Now these are just property names that I've picked. They have nothing to do with whether or not something's going to work if you don't use these names. Inside of colors, I've defined the 4 colors that I want to use in my application. I've got a couple of font families, some font sizes, some font weights. So we're saying that this is the theme. This is what I've designed for my website. I'm going to be using these things within my styled components, and as the theme, that's naturally going to be cascading down and inherited by the different components. All right, so inside of app.js, we're going to have to, here, we're going to import, we're going to use styled from styled components, same as we did in the last video. So we're going to create one styled component that uses this, and I'm also going to import something from theme.js. Inside of theme.js, we have this object, coolTheme. What's inside the object doesn't matter too much right now, but what we have to do is we have to create a provider that we're then going to add into app.js, and then that is going to be what we use to get these property values to all of our styled components. So we will create a component down here, and we're going to call it theme.js. So it's going to be named right after our page. So I'll say export default. I don't have to export coolTheme because it's going to be included as part of this. There we go. So here's the component that we're going to build. We're going to return a thing called a ThemeProvider. And this is something that we're going to get from styled components. So we'll do an import here from styled components. And ThemeProvider is what we're going to bring in here. Now this is going to be the object, like I said. This uses the context API from React to provide this theme information. So all the stuff inside of here is going to be provided to the rest of our app. Now right now, we're not feeding this into the provider, but this export function theme, this is the thing that we're going to import over here in app.js. So we're going to import theme. We don't need the curly braces because it is our default export. And that's going to be from theme.js. There we go. So we are importing that theme provider, and then we can put this anywhere we want, really. Whatever this component wraps, everything inside of it is going to be able to access the values in the theme that we're defining right here. So I'm going to wrap it in around all of this, so my theme is available at every level. So my theme component, put it there, wraps around everything. Now right now this theme is empty, but it is a theme provider. So over here, we need to get this object that we've defined, this cool theme, into our theme provider. So we will say theme equals curly braces because it is a variable, not just a string. This object called cool theme, that's the thing that we're going to export and bring into here. Now, I do have one little problem. Well, it's not a little problem, but there is one issue right now, and that is that we haven't said how to handle everything inside of theme. In order to carry this through and have all of these things be able to access theme, what we need to do is here, we're going to have props. Now I can use destructuring, and I will get children from the props. It's the only thing that I need to get out of props. And then that's going to go right here. So we're going to be telling it, hey, I want to put all those components that are in app.js written inside of theme, put them there. So right here, all this stuff that we put inside of theme, we want it to be there. We're wrapping a theme provider around the whole thing, but in order to render all this stuff, we have to pass it through the theme provider so that it can render that to the page. All right, so we have now theme. We've created this theme object right here, which is a theme provider. The theme provider is looking at this, and that is at a bare minimum. That sort of does our setup. So in here, there's our page. We have a theme provider. We have a theme object that's in here. If I bring up my console, everything's fine. I'm not seeing any of my properties. I'm not using any of those properties yet, but I do have this theme. And if I were to create another component, I can start looking at the theme object and see what's inside of it. So let's do that. Let's create a styled component. So we'll say, create one called box, and we'll say it's a div. There we go. So just like last time, we're creating a styled component. We can put whatever properties we want inside of here. We'll say padding 1 rem, margin 1 rem. Keep it pretty simple. And I will say color is going to be red, just as a starting point. Now, down here, I can create my box. Not the bod, but the box. And put some content inside of there. Let's just put a paragraph. So this is a styled div, and the paragraph is going to be a box. All right, so there's our box. I should take these quotation marks off of here. Just like in CSS. This is CSS that we're writing. We don't need the quotation marks. If this were JavaScript, yes, everything needs quotation marks around it. But inside here, this template string for our styled components, we do not need extra quotation marks in there. And there we go. There's our div, our box being rendered. Great, that works. Now, if I were to create another component, now if I were to want to start to inject some of these theme properties into these components, this is styled components that we're working with. Theme.js. This is coming from styled components, this theme provider. So we're working with themes, we're working with styled components. So these will naturally appear inside every styled component. So box, this is a styled component that we've built and we've put it inside of here. So it will automatically have access to any one of the values from our theme. And the theme is going to show up inside of props. So there will be, from our theme provider, every time you go into props for a styled component, there's going to be a property called theme. Inside theme will be all of this. So all the stuff that we had inside of cool theme that we put into this theme prop right here. So we're saying props.theme dot something from here. So we could pick one of these colors instead, or a font size. Let's make it the large font size here. So we want props.theme.fontsizes.large. And we're going to use that here. So inside my box, I can have access to those properties. And this is where the box is being created. So instead of color, well, we'll leave color there. We'll come back and do a replacement for color in a moment. But for the font size in my CSS, I can do the same thing that I was doing last time with styled components. And that is we have a function. Anytime we want to access the value of props, it's just like with regular things inside of here. You want to access props to get some other value that you had written down here. We can get to the theme properties that are inside of here. So we're going to say in this function, I want to get the value from props.theme.fontsizes.large. That was the value here, fontsizes.large. So we're bringing that in and we're assigning that here. And that is now part of my styled component. So every styled component has access to the information from theme. There it is. There's the 3 REM. And as for the color, and we can do background color as well, we can get to the values from those functions. So we're inside the backtick characters. So this is a template string, so we can embed functions or expressions, variables, whatever it is we need. Inside of here, we've got props. This is a function, and it's going to have access to props. And then what is it that we want? Well, for colors, props.theme.colors. And then which one do we want to use here? Well, let's take colors, darker background, and bright text. We'll do those two. Darker BG, bright text. There. And props.theme.colors.darker BG. All right, so we have these functions. We're now extracting these from the theme over here. And there it is. So we have the colors, the font size, the background, and the text color coming from our theme and being applied to this styled component. It's one that we've built right here. If we wanted to create other ones, let's create another one to put down here. Let's say we've got a main component, and I'm going to throw in something called inner. And I will, here, let's make it a self-closing one. Let's say all the content's going to be built inside of inner. So we'll create a file called inner.js. This is going to be our new component. So that's brought in. There's inner. We have to import it. Okay, so we have the inner component now. It's on the page. We've built it, we've imported it, we're using it right here. But this is not a styled component, so this is an important distinction to make here. And because it's not a styled, because it's not a styled component, we do have props, but we do not have props.theme. So let's do a console.log here when this gets rendered. I want to take a look at props. So here it is, props, and props is an empty object. There's nothing being passed in yet. If I went over here into inner and said, hello world. Okay, now I've got a prop. So props, we open this up. There it is. Props is an object, hello world. So we have props.hello. Okay, fine. So we can access that. But we don't have one called theme, which we did have here inside this styled component. So all style components by default have access to the theme. So they've got access to all this stuff. But if it's not a styled component, if it's just a component that you've built, it will not have default access to props.theme. If you want access, we have a hook to do that. So styled components has a hook that allows us to get to this. So let's import useTheme from styled components. Now with this, we can say const theme equals useTheme. This will be, this variable right here, will be the theme object right here, this whole thing. So call it something else if you want. This is just a variable name, but it will hold that object that we defined and that we fed into the theme provider. So whatever this is, useTheme gets to that for us. If our component is not a styled component, if it wasn't built by styled components, we have to use the hook to go and get access to that. Once we have it, now we can come in here and we can say, okay, so here's my JSX style object. So the outer parentheses here mean, okay, it's going to be an expression. Here is the style object. And if I'm writing this, I can say color red, background color gold. And here is where we're not writing CSS. This is where we need the quotation marks right here. This is a JavaScript object. So I'm saying those are the properties that I want. And there it is, red text on the gold background. Okay, but we have theme. I don't want to set these things. What I want to do is I want to actually use the values from my theme. At this point, I don't need to call a function to get these because we've already called a function here, the useTheme function. That's gone and retrieved the theme object for us. So we can just use it as if it were a variable here. So backtick characters, because I'm going to inject a variable. Inside of here, the only thing I'm going to write is going to be my theme dot colors, and let's use the dull text and theme dot colors dot, oh, this is going to be the lighter background, lighter BG. There we go. So because this is a JavaScript object, you've got the property and the value. The values are strings. They need to have quotation marks around it because we're writing in JavaScript. So inside the quotation marks, I'm going to have my variable. I can use the interpolation just like this. And there we have it. Now, this is the lighter background with the dull text color. We can also, the quotation marks are here just in case if one of these variables in here, let's say if it was just 0.8 and 1.0 and 1.5, we didn't have the unit REM here. So let's go for the medium one just as an, or oh, extra large, just as an example. I'm going to remove the REM here. So we've got 4.5 is the value. And inside of here, if we were to set up font size using the JavaScript property, no hyphens, and I was to put my backticks like this, and we say theme dot font size dot extra large. Now that's just a number, so I want to write the REM here like that. Oh, it's not happy with extra large fonts. Oh, this is font sizes. That's the problem. There we go. So here we have the font size being applied, the REM, so that's why we have the quotation marks in case this needs something else. If there is nothing else, like with this one, for example, we can just leave it as just the variable, like that. So theme.colors.dull.txt. And there we have it. So we have a non-styled component, just a regular component that we built. We use the hook useTheme to go and get the values of that theme object. or every styled component by default, as long as it's inside of the theme provider that we created and wrapped around everything, then every styled component that you create will by default be passed the props object. Through the props, you will have access to a theme object, which is the theme object from the theme provider. All right, so I hope that helps you out. I hope that helps you understand theming with styled components. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments. I answer as many as I have time for. And as always, thanks for watching.